Hey you guys, welcome back to another What's for Dinner video. I am all about sharing easy and budget-friendly meals that your whole family is going to love. I do have a toddler, so I need to make sure that they are actually foods that he will eat, and I would say that these are all going to be meals that your whole family would love. I do upload these videos every single Sunday, so if you don't want to miss out, make sure you go ahead and hit that little subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and let's get into this week's meals. First up, I am going to be making this sausage tortellini. It was inspired by a recipe that I found on Pinterest and it turned out really good. I did tweak it from the original recipe. I will link that one below, but I will share with you how I made it today. So first off, I am starting off with cutting up one large onion. I did cut mine into pretty small pieces just because I don't like big chunks of onion, but this recipe is a really good one. You're definitely going to want to try this one out. The original recipe did not call for any yellow pepper, but I had some in my fridge and I thought it sounded pretty good for this, and I have to say it did add a lot of really good flavor. So I added probably about half of one and it was super good. So I just mixed that in with the onion, and then I'm adding all of that into this heavy bottom pan with a pound of sausage. So the actual recipe called for sausage, and then you take it out of the casing, but I didn't have any of that, so I just used some regular pork sausage that I had in the freezer, and I browned all of this up together. Once all of my sausage was all nice and cooked through, I am just seasoning it up with a little bit of salt and pepper. I didn't do too much salt because I didn't want to make it overly salty, and I added more at the end. And then I'm also adding in some minced garlic. I'm just using the jarred kind. It's so much easier. I did a couple big scoops of that, and then I let this cook together for about a minute. Once the garlic was nice and fragrant, I am just adding in the tortellini. I think I used like 9 or 10 ounces of this, and that worked perfectly for this recipe. And then I also added in about 1.5 cups of chicken broth, and I did add 2 cans of petite diced tomatoes. I will say next time I will alter these measurements just a little bit. It ended up being a little bit too saucy, so I had to pull a little bit out, but I would just tweak the measurements of this just a little bit. I did add in 1 cup of whipping cream. So if I were to do this again, I would do like 3/4 of a cup of whipping cream and like 1 cup of chicken broth instead, and I think that would end up being the perfect consistency. Once everything came to a boil, I just added in a little bit of these red chili flakes and turned it down to a low heat, and then I covered it up and let it cook for about 15 minutes. After everything was completely cooked through, I just seasoned it up with a little bit more salt and pepper. Just do that to taste. And then I added in probably like 3 cups or so of spinach. You really can add however much you want. I didn't do too much. I just kind of broke it up a little bit and added it in. The recipe called for fresh, but all I had was frozen, so that is what I used, and it worked just fine. It's going to wilt down anyway. And then you're just going to let all of that wilt together, and it's all ready to serve after that. For this next recipe, I am going to be making a taco pie. I actually saw this on Kim's Farmhouse Life. I will have her channel linked down below. Super easy to make, and it ended up being really good. I would totally make this one again. And I had this can of crescent rolls that I had to use up in the fridge, so that was perfect. So all I'm doing here is adding the whole can of crescent rolls, and I'm just pressing this into the bottom of I think this was an 8-inch pie pan, not 100%, 8 or 9 inches for the pie pan. And I'm just getting this all pressed in there, and that is going to be the bottom of our taco pie. I am just preheating my oven to 375 degrees, and then I'm going to be getting started on the meat. For this recipe, you're just going to need a pound of lean ground beef. I like to use grass-fed beef. This is what I always use, but you're going to go ahead and get that all browned up. I also decided to add in a little bit of seasoning to my meat. I just did some salt and pepper with some garlic powder as well as some onion powder. I always like to season up my hamburger. I think it just makes it taste so much better that way. Once the ground beef is completely cooked through, the recipe just called for about a cup of salsa. I just used this thick and chunky salsa from the Great Value Walmart brand, and it worked perfect for that. And then you're also going to need some taco seasoning. I just used one of these little packets, and it worked good. I used about 2 tablespoons of that. And then I let that simmer together for about 5 minutes or so until it was ready to add into my little croissant pie crust. I have to say this was a really good recipe. It was like a nice little different take on tacos. Definitely will be making it again because we get sick of just having like plain tacos. So we really liked this one. And then of course you're going to need some shredded cheese because you can't have tacos without some cheese. I am just using a Colby and Monterey Jack blend. That's typically our favorite for really any type of recipe. And then I baked this in the oven for about 20 or 25 minutes. As for toppings, I just chopped up a little bit of lettuce to go with it. I was running low on a lot of things. This was our second week of groceries and we're only going every 2 weeks right now. So I just chopped up the lettuce that we had, and this would be super good with like fresh tomatoes or even avocado, black olives. Any of those things would be super, super good. But I just sliced this all up and served it with the lettuce. I did some sour cream as well as a little bit of salsa, and it was a really delicious meal. So this is dinner tonight. I didn't even film it when I put it together because it's literally the easiest thing ever. It's just one chicken breast with a jar of Alfredo sauce. And not gonna lie, I'm not a big fan of jarred Alfredo, but I did have it on hand, so I wanted to use this up. So that is gonna be dinner tonight. I'm just gonna shred up this chicken breast and then probably serve it over some noodles and maybe do like a salad or something on the side. But yeah, that's gonna be dinner. Really, really easy tonight. I think I'm actually gonna add in a little bit of chicken broth. This is just a little bit thicker than I personally like my chicken Alfredo. So I'm just gonna do a tiny bit of chicken broth until I get the consistency that I want. And I'm just adding in a little bit of garlic powder. Y'all know I like my garlic. And I'm gonna do a little bit of just black pepper in there. And that's gonna be it. This is a super quick and easy lazy night meal. This is a Monday meal, so I need something easy on Mondays. I feel like they're just always stressful. Even though I'm just home with my kids, they're just, you can just tell when it's a Monday. Hence the screaming baby. That's a little real life for you of what goes on when I am actually cooking dinner. I think I'm just gonna do some egg noodles tonight. I have a lot of these on hand and it's just easier for the kids to eat versus like a fettuccine noodle. So I'm gonna get these cooking. All right, this next recipe might just be my favorite for the week. I did some copycat Chick-fil-A chicken nuggets. So here you see 2 chicken breasts, but they're all cut up into small little nugget pieces. I just did that off camera to make it easier. And then I'm actually marinating it with some pickle juice from a jar. I probably did about a cup or so, and then I'm just popping this in the fridge for about an hour. After that hour was up, I am just getting the little batter ready. I did 1 egg in there, mixing that up really well. And then I also did some milk. I did about a cup of milk. And then you're just going to take all of your little pieces of chicken breast and get them all really well coated in this mixture. And then the breading for this is actually super simple. All you're going to do is put it in a Ziploc baggie to shake everything together. All you need is 1 cup of flour, and then you'll also need 1 tablespoon of powdered sugar. And then you're just going to take all of the pieces of chicken, make sure they get pretty well drained off. You don't want them to be like super soaking wet. And then just toss all of those into your Ziploc baggie with the flour mixture and shake everything together until it's really well coated. If you are enjoying this video so far, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. It boosts the video in YouTube's algorithm, so I really appreciate when you guys do that. And if you are new here, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you don't want to miss out on any more What's for Dinner videos. So the recipe that I was following will be linked down below, but that recipe said to use peanut oil, but I did not have any of that, so I just added about a cup of regular vegetable oil and heated it up, and then I added the chicken right into that. Make sure that it is hot before you add in the chicken, or the breading just isn't going to fry the same. And I would say that I fried these for like 3 minutes on each side maybe. I did go ahead and temp them when they were done just to make sure they were all the way done, but you only want to flip them once. So you want to make sure that they get nice and crispy on the one side before you actually flip them. I have been on the hunt for some new recipes, so if you guys have some favorites, make sure you leave them for me. You can either leave it in a comment down below, you can leave me a link if you have a favorite recipe off Pinterest or something, or you can DM me over on Instagram. I will have my handle linked down below. Make sure you go ahead and give me a follow. I share more of my personal life over there, my kids, my life, just more of like the day-to-day stuff that you don't really see on my YouTube channel. And if you ever make any of my dinner recipes, make sure you tag me. I love to connect with you guys over there. I figured I could not have Chick-fil-A without some fries, so I just popped those in my air fryer and got those going. And then I decided to make the Chick-fil-A sauce because you can't have Chick-fil-A without the sauce, right? So I found this copycat recipe on Pinterest. I will have it linked down below, but I'm just starting off by doing a 1/4 cup of mayonnaise. I just use regular plain old mayonnaise in a dish. And then you're also going to need a tablespoon of barbecue sauce. It looks like I'm adding 2 just because I'm using a 1/2 tablespoon, but you're gonna need 1 tablespoon of barbecue sauce and 1 tablespoon of honey. And then you're also going to need a teaspoon of mustard. I have to say this was a pretty good copycat recipe. It tasted very similar to the Chick-fil-A sauce. My husband really liked this sauce, so I'll definitely be making this one again. If you have been craving some Chick-fil-A during all of this quarantine stuff, go ahead and make this recipe. It was really good. I don't know what that pickle juice does, but it gave it some really good flavor. And the last recipe that I'm going to be sharing is just some old-fashioned goulash. I don't know about you guys, but here in Minnesota, we call this hot dish. Do you guys call this recipe goulash or do you call it hot dish? I'm really curious because apparently it's a Minnesota thing that we call it hot dish. What do you guys think? Leave it for me in the comments because I'm really curious what you guys call this. But I am just starting off by cutting up 1 large onion, and then I'm just adding it into my heavy-bottomed pot with 1 pound of lean ground beef. I feel like every time I go to cook my ground beef, it's still a little bit frozen in the middle. I don't know if anyone else can relate to that, but I just never take it out quite in time and it's just still a little bit frozen. So that's why I can't break it up too much. But then I'm just making some beef broth. I'm making 2 cups of this, but I'm only adding in 1 cube of the bouillon. I just didn't want a super strong broth flavor and I didn't want it to be super salty. Once my ground beef was completely cooked through, I'm just seasoning it up with a little bit of salt and pepper, and then I did go ahead and add in some onion powder and garlic powder as well as a little bit of minced garlic. And then I'm also going to be adding in a couple cans of tomato sauce. I actually had mine in the fridge. It was left over, and I already had this seasoned with quite a bit of Italian seasoning. I had some salt and pepper in there, so it was seasoned pretty well. And then I'm just adding in 1 can of petite diced tomatoes as well as some extra seasoning. You do want to go heavy on the seasonings with this recipe. I do tons of Italian seasoning. Oregano is really good. Lots of garlic powder, onion powder, salt and pepper. Definitely want good seasoning in this one. And then I do like to add about 1.5 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce. And then for the pasta, I am just using a whole box of elbow noodles. And that's the great thing about this dish is that you can just cook everything in one pot. It's super handy. Go ahead and add in those 2 cups of beef broth. And then I did add in a little bit of water. I just felt like it needed it because you obviously need enough liquid to make sure that the noodles are all cooked. I would say I added about another cup of water as well as a little bit of sugar because you do want this to be a little bit sweeter. You don't want it to go crazy, but you do want a little bit of sugar in there. And then you're just going to cover this up with a lid. And I would say mine takes right around 15-ish minutes to cook, maybe a little bit longer. You'll know it's done once all of the liquid is absorbed and the noodles are cooked all the way through. And then I just paired that with a little bit of garlic bread. I'm just taking some Italian bread that I had in my freezer, putting a little bit of butter on there, sprinkling it with some garlic salt, and then I pop this into a 400-degree oven for about 10 minutes and it comes out perfect. This was a super easy dinner. You guys know I'm all about easy, and this is very budget friendly too. This is one of those really frugal meals and it lasts forever. I feel like we had leftovers from this one for quite a few days. Once the goulash is completely cooked through, you can add a couple handfuls of your favorite cheese. I usually use a Colby Monterey Jack blend, but I didn't have any on hand, so I just used some mozzarella. You can add a little bit more salt and pepper or extra seasonings if you like, but that is it for this super easy and super budget-friendly meal. And that's actually the last dinner that I'm going to be sharing in this video. Make sure you are subscribed if you don't want to miss out on any more What's for Dinner videos. They are uploaded every single Sunday. Give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you guys next time. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!
As a young girl, the fields were mine. We played hide